All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Sparking Academic Joy 2019 Academic Writing Month, so AcWriMo Orientation Webinar. So my name is Angelique Davis, and I'm a facilitator of Exhale Academic Writing Retreats and an associate professor of political science. Today I'm joined by Ernst, who's an academic editor and coach and former associate professor and department chair. I'm excited to share the details of the challenge with the participants in my writing retreats as an added level of support for them, and Rose as well for her clients and other academic writers who are interested in participating in this writing challenge. So what are we going to be talking about today? So there's three things we're going to focus on. The first is, what is Academic Writing Month? Why should you participate, or why would you want to participate? And then the logistics of how it works. So first of all, AcWriMo is born out of November being something called National Novel Writing Month. Some of you may have already heard about this. It began in 1999 with just 21 participants. And the goal is for writers to write a 50,000-word novel in 1 month with encouragement, support, and community provided by other writers. As of 2015, at least 500,000 people have participated in this challenge. And in 2011, Charlotte Frost at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee started Academic Writing Month for academics. So it's in this spirit we're hosting this challenge with our own special twists based upon our experiences working with academics in academic writing. So our version provides two options, and we'll be talking in detail about those. One is for you to focus on the completion of a significant academic writing project over the month of November, or to work on building your scholarly identity. So again, why participate? Talking a little bit more and how does it work? We'll get into the particular details later, but to give you an idea overall, as we're talking about different types of goals you can set, it's important to understand that, first of all, you'll define the goal. So the only thing we ask of you is that whatever you set is your goal for the month, that it be a stretch for you, okay? And by stretch, not just, a little uncomfortable, something that's actually going to be a significant accomplishment for you. You'll also have accountability and accompaniment. So there'll be the opportunity for community support and daily check-ins, and you set the stakes. So you'll pledge an amount that you'd hate to lose. So if you complete your goal, you're guaranteed to get it back, plus a share of the pledges of those other participants who didn't finish. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the goal of setting a significant academic writing project and some ideas for you to think about in that regard. So what would you need to accomplish? So again, as I was talking about it, it needs to be a significant academic writing project that stretches you beyond what you would typically be able to complete. Okay, and I just really want to push, again, a stretch. So here's a few ideas. So these suggestions are based on a Medium article written by Nicole Rokas that's titled 10 Alternatives to NaNoWriMo for Nonfiction and Academic Writers. So the first suggestion is to consider writing an academic article draft or a book chapter during the month of November. So for example, you could devote 1 week to drafting each section, or make a detailed outline ahead of time and pick one item on that outline to draft each day. To focus on the drafting writing process, you could also select a topic or project you've already done most of the writing for. So if you like having a daily word count goal, for example, you could also aim for 300 words per day, which would amount to a 9,000-word article or chapter at the end of the challenge. This may be slightly higher than the recommended word count for many academic journals, but you'll likely be cutting the word count down during the editing process anyway. So another option is to consider finishing a previous project that's gathering dust. I don't know about you, but I know I have a few of those. So is there one that's fallen through the cracks? Is there a half-finished book, essay, chapter, or proposal that you started? And the passion was strong, but when real life happened and other priorities stole your attention, you set it aside. So you could set aside this challenge to dust it off and polish it up. So whatever your unfinished project is, you could size it up before November comes and map out what your ultimate goal is for that project by the end of the month. So for example, it could be finish the final section of my article, write the intro for your book, format footnotes for a conference paper, and then what you can do is develop a schedule or incremental bench style goals that you can work towards to finish what needs to be done over the course of the month. That's my dog Max, or sorry, that's Dash. So the other thing you could do is also rework a failed, rejected, or some type of shame-inducing draft that shows potential. So we know that in our lives as academics, rejection and struggle is just part of it. And just because a manuscript has been rejected in the past doesn't mean that the ideas aren't worth putting out there or finessing. So if you have a draft that hasn't been as successful as you'd like, consider setting aside this time in November to revive it. Especially, if you have some shame surrounding the rejection, knowing that you're only devoting a limited amount of time to it can also incentivize you to face it. So that's one suggestion. And I also want to add that, some of the work, like in, I'm thinking of critical race theory and other areas, some really seminal pieces of work have gone through multiple rejections before they were finally published, and then they end up being some of the most cited work in their field. So I wouldn't say, I would say try to not be too discouraged. And again, when we're thinking about reworking one of these drafts, Nicole Rokas suggested in her article that you could use the month to start from scratch. You could look at your old draft, but once November 1st hits, try free writing the thing in an entirely new document without copying and pasting. You could try to rewrite it with the ideas fresh in your mind as you see them now, not trying to recall and regurgitate exactly how you saw it when you wrote the first draft. And then later you could go back and reincorporate that. Another way to approach this too is you could work with Wendy Belcher's process in her Writing Your Journal Article in 12 Weeks book. That's another way. She has a lot of great suggestions for working through revisions. So another suggestion is to write a book proposal. So maybe you have a book project that you need to write a book proposal for. So Rokas recommended writing a rough draft proposal before even starting to write any of the chapters. And we know this helps us focus and fine tune our ideas, as well as start thinking about intended audience. But if you've already started writing your book, you could also take this challenge as an opportunity to finalize your proposal so you can send it off to editors. So if you need assistance, consider utilizing, for example, the NCFDD webinar, How to Craft and Submit a Winning Book Proposal in 4 weeks. That could be very helpful. So another suggestion is writing a 1,000 to 2,000 word essay or blog post each day around a central theme. So if you wanted to do more public scholarship, this could be an opportunity to focus on developing this aspect of your work. You could use these chunks of writing time, to write these type of essays or blog posts or opinion pieces. You could potentially turn them into a book later, but for now you're focusing on drafting these selections with a clear thematic center. Okay, so it helps, of course, to select a theme ahead of time or a series of related topics, so you won't have to spend your precious writing time trying to come up with something new each day. And of course, you'd want to align this with your intended audience and your current research agenda. And of course, there's other ideas. So is there another writing project that you've longed to work on, like a textbook, a news column, a memoir, a totally new genre such as creative nonfiction, or even a combination of 2 or more of the suggestions we discussed? So this challenge is for you to create what works best for your goals. And so these are suggestions if you're wanting to go about the goal, setting a goal of completing a significant academic writing project. Now I'm going to turn it over to Rose to discuss building a scholarly identity and that goal as well.
All right, thanks, Angelique. I don't know if you turn off your, I don't know if you turn off your video, maybe mine will show up. It doesn't really matter. No one needs to see me. I just want to let you know, Angelique, you're still on screen. All right, so it's nice to see all of you this morning. Thanks for taking the time out to join us. I'm going to be talking about our second option for your goals for the month. We should say that, you know, we ask that you choose one or the other, and you can also choose both if you want to. I'm probably, for my goals, I'm probably going to do some combination of the two. So in starting off with this kind of abstract concept around identity, I want you to imagine that, you know, you were asked to run a half marathon with a friend as a challenge. Let's say it was for a good cause, right? That you run this half marathon. So you and your friend prepare, you know, for a few months leading up to the marathon, right? So you run, you try to run every day. You do something, right, to make sure that you're in shape when the time comes. Then you run the marathon. And after the marathon's complete, you feel great. You met your challenge. Maybe it was a bucket list challenge, right? You met your goal. And now what, right? Do you continue to run? Do you continue to run at the same, you know, pace as training for a marathon? Do you have another marathon to train for? Or do you just go back to whatever your exercise routine was before you ran that marathon, right? So there's an important moment here where you decide whether or not you're going to continue as a marathon runner, and perhaps even to reconceptualize yourself as an athlete, right? So when you reconceptualize yourself, your identity as an athlete or as a marathon runner, you can continue that habit in a much easier way than if you were just sort of like trying to get to that finish line and then looking forward to not doing anything afterwards, right? It's a very kind of subtle difference, but we've all had those things where we've done a 30-day challenge and then we're just so happy to not do it anymore that we just let the habit go, right? And that's partially because we haven't really identified as that person who's doing that habit. So habits are really important in terms of how they're tied to your identity. So here I have a quote from James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, which is a great book on developing habits. And other experts in neurolinguistic programming have found that there is a very tight connection between your habits and your identity. And I think this is really important for scholars. I know in my own life that this has been very important to my productivity. I used to operate pre-tenure under sort of an external pressures, right? Internal pressures as well that weren't really healthy because they were oftentimes shamed-based, or like I just had to get this done, or discipline and so forth. But they were external in the sense that I had to get through tenure, right? And for scholars, we're constantly sort of under these different sort of benchmarks, right? Like graduate school, we finish, then we get tenure. And then after tenure, some of us have some struggles because we haven't really developed that identity as a scholar and or as a writer. So for those of us who maybe are good at meeting our writing goals on a daily basis, but we still haven't really, we don't really feel very comfortable with being a scholar or a writer, and we don't really identify with that, and we don't put ourselves out there maybe in certain ways, this is a great opportunity for you, okay? So I'm gonna, oh, maybe Angelique, yeah, thanks. So this is your opportunity to really build your scholarly identity. And again, you can do both at the same time with a practical writing goal. So for those of us who teach and perform service, we may have strong identities in particular around who we are as teachers. Maybe we're risk takers, we're caregivers in some way. maybe we're provocative, right? So we have different identities around our being a teacher. So I want you to think about, who are you as a scholar? And for some of us, it may be more helpful for you to first think about, how are you a writer or an author? Because we're really focused on, publications here. That may be an easier leap for you. Sometimes scholar is a big concept. So I want you to why don't you pick 3 words, and these are not words, not all these words are words that you need to pick. These are just suggestions to get you thinking about it, that describe who you are as a scholar or a writer, right? Are you devoted? Are you analytical? Are you productive? Are you playful? Are you creative? So again, these are things that you're not doing them yet, but this is how you are being, right? This is core to your identity. So pick out a few words and use them to help shape your goals, right? So for example, when we get into logistics, you're going to talk about daily check-ins. So you're going to have a question about your identity as an option to answer. So for example, if I'm a devoted scholar, I want to ask myself, how did I actually demonstrate being devoted today to my scholarly identity? Perhaps it was I actually spent some time researching fellowships that previously I thought I couldn't possibly apply for, right? I actually spent some time expanding my notion of what it means to be a devoted scholar. Maybe for creativity, going back to what Angelique said about, writing those blog posts every day, that's a great one to kind of fit in with this identity around being creative, playful, and bold, for example, right? So what that means is, maybe you are used to just writing in scholarly journals, you have tenure, and you really want to sort of become sort of a more public intellectual, for lack of a better term, right? Maybe you want to write poetry that's connected to your scholarship, and you're based in social sciences or humanities. So use those identities and that opportunity to write something new and see how the two are integrated together, right? Which will hopefully make the habit stick a little bit more after we finish our time together in the month of November. All right, and I'm happy to answer questions about this in Q&A too, if it's not completely clear. So the goal here is that we want you to crave your writing time. So I am a fiction writer as well as an academic writer. And once I started actually identifying as a writer and writing every day, the two together became completely part of my identity and habits, to the point now where if I don't write at least 500 words a day, I actually have what I would describe as a physical craving. Like, I get cranky, and my partner knows exactly what happened, which is I didn't get my writing time in the morning. And this is because it's fiction and it's fun for me. I do it every day. And I've been doing it for almost 2 years now. So it really has set in as just a normalized activity, almost like any other hygienic activity, if you will, to the point where if I don't do it, something feels off. And that's really what Angelique and I want for you, is to really get to that point where you crave your writing time and it no longer becomes a struggle as to what you're going to be doing or how you're going to be doing it, because it's just part of your routine. All right. Thank you. So Angelique's going to chime in here at any point about the logistics, because I may be missing a few things. And again, we'll talk about, take any of your questions at the end. So the first component of the writing challenge, right, is accountability. And we believe that accountability really only works if you have support. And so we have a group set up for this on Mighty Networks. And you also get the opportunity to set your unique goal, which you will share with the group. Okay. We also have accompaniment. So we have, Angelique has set up weekday Zoom sessions so you can write with others. So essentially this is just a room, if you will, on Zoom where you can write with each other. And I believe any one of you can initiate the session. So you don't have to wait for anyone. You can just go in there and write by yourself. And then maybe someone will show up, maybe someone won't. but that's going to be available Monday through Thursday. What are the hours?
4 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Fridays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Right. And the link for this will be on an event page in Mighty Network, so it'll be easy to find. Next, we have community support. So some of you may or may not have used Mighty Networks before. It's essentially an alternative to Facebook groups that's much cleaner, neater, and you don't actually have to use Facebook with all of its distractions, which is kind of the point of having a writing group, is to not be distracted. And we've posted articles on there. We have some little quizzes, and we'll have daily check-ins on there. And so the goal is, of course, for us to all cheer each other on. And then finally, we have pledging shared funds, which is sure to bring up some questions. So here's the idea. We want you to pledge an amount to yourself that is meaningful, and again, a stretch, as Angelique described, right? So we want you to pledge an amount that would not feel great to lose that amount if you didn't meet your goal. So I think we suggested around $100 is probably great. It doesn't really matter. You just pick something that's meaningful to you. And what you're going to do, and we'll describe it in a minute, is you're going to essentially pay us. We're going to hold the money for you for the month of November. And as long as you meet your goal, you will get that money back. Now, if there are folks who don't actually check in during the month and don't meet their goals, they essentially forfeit their money, and that goes into the general pot. And then we divide that up amongst the people who have met their own goals at the end of the month. Okay. And again, we'll talk about that more in just a second. Okay. So Angelique put together these beautiful 4 easy steps. So first, what you're going to do is register on Mighty Networks, which is very simple. We'll send you the link. And what this is essentially, you can, I believe, sign up directly through LinkedIn. And there's another, it's not Gmail, something else that you can sign up directly. I actually just signed up through LinkedIn because I have that automatically on my computer, so I don't have to remember another password. And then once you get into Mighty Networks, you're going to be joining automatically. You'll see Sparking Academic Joy. So you'll be joining that group. And what will pop up is what's called an icebreaker question, which is essentially just for you to list your goal. So after you register on Mighty Networks, it will automatically take you to, thank you, posting your goal. So this is what you'll see, time to list your goal for the month. And so you list them below, and then we can all see them together and cheer you on, right? So then we can go, you can go back to this goal at any point. And we also have a template in Mighty Networks for specific writing goals that you can use, and you can use that and just attach it if you want and upload it. And as we say here, for those of you in NCFDD, you're familiar with this concept of SMART goals. And Angelique encouraged you to do this already, but what you want to do is you want to pick a goal or multiple goals, right, that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time framed, right? So for example, let me give you an example of what is not a SMART goal. What is not a SMART goal is I'm going to work on chapter 1 of my book, okay? That is not measurable, because what does working on mean? Achievable, it's not achievable. Working on something is not an achievement, right? Like there's no end goal in sight. Also, I don't know if chapter 1, finishing chapter 1, working on chapter 1, whatever you're going to do with it is realistic. And there's no time frame to it except for the month, right? So you want to actually, for example, in that case, you want to say, I will finish a full draft of chapter 1 of my book by the end of November. Actually, it's the first week of December, right? And then I encourage you to break that down into more even specific goals than that, right? So I will finish the literature review by November 12th, for example, right? And then go even further than that. So if you struggle with implementing your goals, one of the reasons that might be occurring is because you're not making them smart enough, in the sense that you sit down and you just stare at chapter 1 and you just don't do anything, not because you're not motivated, not because you're not smart, not because you don't know what to do. It's just that you have not made the steps clear for yourself. So you're not able to actually move through and finish the goal. Angelique, anything you want to add about that?
No, I think you covered it.
All right. So this goal will be shown to everyone on Mighty Networks. Now, step 3 is pledge. So this is, again, how much you're essentially donating into the ether for the month of November, and then you're going to get back, right? That's what the plan is. So you pick an amount, let's say it's $100, and we have 2 options for you. You can either send the $100 to Angelique on Cash App, or you can send the $100 to me on Venmo. So those are our 2 options. Hopefully you have one of them. If you don't, they're super easy to download as an app, and we'll essentially just hold that money for you during that month. And again, your pledge, unlike your goal, which is visible to everyone on Mighty Networks, the amount you pledge is not visible. That is private to you. Of course, we will know, but that's confidential. And our only interest is actually in tallying the whole total number and then posting that once we get everyone's pledges, because it's obviously fun to know sort of how much is on the line collectively. Step 4 is prepare. Well, you are all obviously on it since you're on this webinar today. What you want to do is prepare, which has to do with setting up your SMART goals, right? So first you want to schedule writing time on your calendar. This is super important that you map this out now and decide that you're going to put yourself first. You're going to pay yourself first, as Carrie Ann says. This is really absolutely essential to making this happen, because we all know how November is just one of those difficult months as an academic. There's holidays and just a lot of things going on. So it's really important that you do that now. You want to compile the necessary materials. So a classic example of writing resistance that pops up for a lot of academics is the literature review. And what I mean by that is that you can spend endless hours looking for books, researching, and so forth, as a way to actually avoid doing the writing. So we don't want you to do that, to spin your wheels. We want you to get all of those materials that you need in place so that you can move forward. Now, if part of your goal is doing the research, obviously, you know, you're not necessarily going to have all of that in place, but we want you to think that through beforehand, right? And make that into a SMART goal too. Decide, like, how long are you going to spend doing that research, because it's very easy to convince yourself that you just need to read one more book and then one more book, right? So make sure that you have some limits around that. And then again, Angelique has put together this wonderful template on Mighty Networks that you can download and fill out for preparation. So to recap, you're going to register on Mighty Networks. We'll send you the link. You're going to post your goal on Mighty Networks, which is easy to do because it pops up. It should just automatically pop up for you. Then you're just going to send us your pledge amount, either to me or to Angelique on Cash App or Venmo, and then you're going to prepare for November 1st. All right, so the challenge begins November 1st. And for those of you who are interested in knowing what happens on Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving break, what we're doing is the day of Thanksgiving and the day after, that Friday, we're not going to be having writing check-ins. So you're welcome to write on those days if you want, but we're not going to be checking in as a group. So what we'll do is we'll actually extend it out to the first week of December, which, you know, for those of us who are on quarters, that is actually our last week of classes. I'm not sure for folks on semester, but it's pretty close to the end of classes, so it kind of makes it a nice, neat package. So we'll be missing 2 weekdays, but otherwise it will be every weekday, Monday through Friday in November, plus the first week of December, and I believe it's Friday, December 6th is the last day.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, there it is, right on the slide. Okay, and so what will happen is you will receive email reminders. I set them for 3 a.m. Pacific time. I'm not actually up at 3 a.m. sending these reminders, just so you know, but I wanted to make sure they were in your inbox by 6 a.m. if you're on the East Coast or maybe somewhere else. So you just get a nice reminder to do that check-in. And the check-in options are, I met my goal, I had an identity shift, or I didn't meet my goal, but I'm checking in. And that's really important because really our goal is for you to be checking in with yourself about your writing every day. And we want you to commit to meeting your goal absolutely every day. If for some reason some emergency comes up or whatever, we just want you to just do that check-in so that we know that you are still there, right? All right. So, and then again, the Zoom writing hangouts, here are the times for that. All right, so we'll open it up for Q&A now.
Great. One thing I wanted to add as well is my online writing retreats meet on Fridays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. So I know some of you are participating in that, so that is why the Zoom space will be taken during that time on Fridays. But it'll be open up to all the other participants in the afternoon. So just wanted to note that. Yeah, so any questions about the process or goal setting, anything?
Go ahead and unmute yourself or pop it in the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joni. Have a good day.
Bye. Okay.
Any questions? Lindsay, let's see. Must the goals be writing? What about data analysis? Great question. Yeah, you know, we take the NCFDD approach, which is that anything that is advancing your writing is your writing, right? So that's research. It's basically everything that's part of the writing process. You know, it includes final edits, final galley proofs, you know, everything that you would include as part of that writing process. So thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm. And it really is about, you know, what is a significant academic project? So again, it's what moves it forward.
Other questions? Let's see, Christina. Oh, good question.
The question is, do you recommend a project that is harder or more out of your comfort zone that you have discomfort about, or something that you're really looking forward to doing? Well, I think both Rose and I can share our thoughts. You know, for most of us as academics, November is a pretty busy time, and the goal is to finish a writing project. So I would say whatever you feel like you can actually get done and is going to help build your momentum to keep up your writing. So I am always a big fan of doing what you look forward to first.
Yes, exactly. Eat your dessert.
Right, definitely. But sometimes there's things that you have to get done, right, because there's a time frame. So, you know, I would leave that up to you. But I have found, and, you know, some of the research on habits, James Clear's work, Darren Daly's, others talk about building momentum as well. And so I think there is something to be said of building that momentum on the project that you're looking forward to doing, so it helps to reinforce that regular writing, that identity as a writer throughout the month, and that could help set you up for working on a project that's when you're not looking forward to. So again, those are just a few of my thoughts. Rose, what would you like to add?
I completely agree. I think I just add, I don't, first of all, I don't know what Christina, your writing habits are. So if you already have nailed a writing habit and this is your stretch in a positive way, you know, in terms of that project, then go for it. Oh, okay. I thought it was Christina responding. So I would say that, and also maybe, you know, reconnect with, is there something about the harder project that you actually are excited about? Like, can you reframe that in such a way that it is not necessarily, you know, that it's hard, but that you're actually like pushing and there's something at the end that's exciting. If you thought that was something you wanted to work on. But again, it's all based on your context, but I'm totally in favor of what Angelique says. Do what motivates you to keep you going. And maybe, you know, that's the other thing, is that you'll get to the end of this month and you'll be just so amazed that you'll just go right into that more difficult project. All right, Melissa has a question. Oh, yeah.
Shall we go ahead and read it? So she wrote, in addition to the NCFDD source that we recommended, do we have any other resources to recommend reading through in preparation for writing a book proposal, especially for something or for those turning a dissertation into a book or books? Rose, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there are actually a couple of books that come to mind, and I'm going to not get the titles quite right. So what I think I'll do is, and there's a couple of great online resources too, is I will, this afternoon on Mighty Networks, I'll create a little topic area around that specific issue, and I'll post all of that information there, if that sounds all right to you. Okay, great. That sounds great. And then that also opens it up so anyone can add anything, any extra resources that they're aware of to that spot.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a complicated question too, you could always just get on the mic if you feel like it's harder to write.
Any questions on goal setting or how you might combine?
Yeah, time to ask.
Yeah, both goal setting and scholarly identity. Well, like Rose said, you know, you can also ask via email or the space on Mighty Networks. It's already open for you to sign up, and we can communicate some in there, but the check-ins don't start till November 1st. So that is a space that you can use if, and you can always reach out to ask us questions.
Yeah, so what the next steps will be is we have everyone who signed up for this call, we have your emails. So what we'll do is go ahead and email you the Mighty Networks information. And then we'll probably also follow up with this, a link. We'll probably post this link. Yeah, no, we'll follow up with this link for the video, right? Yeah. So you'll have clear next steps about what to do. So the next step is just, you'll get a link from us and then you register on Mighty Networks. And then from there, it should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for participating, and we look forward to writing with you over the month of November and celebrating with you in December. Yep. So, all right. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, let's see.